I like talking to myself. I don't like talking to a bunch of people, so it's a little weird for me right now. Obviously, I guess what she said was true about being bad kids or whatever. I was a rebel, you know. But, you know, I became a mother at the age of 18, and every year from that moment, I realized how important he was to me and my children. I was so focused on the fact that we lost our father at a young age. And it wasn't until we went to be with the Lord when I realized that he was more of a father than my own father. And I don't say that to discredit my dad, but this man spent more time with my sister and I. He got to see my children grow, and he really was a father to me. He was so helpful. He would call me out the blue, practically begging me to take some time for myself, let him watch the kids. He adored my kids so much. Loved them, loved being around them, and I always will call him. I talk to him all the time, and anytime I had questions regarding spirituality and or my friends were going through something and they need prayer or we need advice, he was the greatest counselor biblically, and I just honor him so much. I honor him so much, and I always told him that I love and appreciate him, but I really don't think he knew how much I love and appreciate him. I've never met a man like him, and, you know, as a single woman with children, seeing what he did for my mother and her children, he just set the tone as the role model of the type of man that I would want to have someday. Very loyal as a husband, an amazing father to his own son. Like my brother, like my little brother, he's just perfect to me, you know, because of the upbringing and the teachings that, you know, how he raised them. And I just honor him so much. And like my sister said, like we didn't have an opportunity to do this. So it is important that we let the world know how much he meant to us publicly and vocally. And I just want to thank everybody for coming out today to show some love. Like that means so much. I thank you so much for that. And my babies are going to miss Pop, but you know, I'm going to miss Pop. Not a second that go by that I won't think of him. I just know that, you know, like my older son said, you know, we gained a great angel, and I believe he's a great angel. I believe he's actually still talking to Jesus when he, you know, still running his mouth. He's like, okay, go to the mansion now. But I just want to thank you guys, and that's all.
Okay, so I wanted to do a sip and get ready with me. I'm not going to be sipping a lot of this. I am mostly sipping wine. I just wanted to come back and chit chat, get some things off of my chest. Let me put these pods in. Okay. So I just wanted to get some things off of my chest that is heavily on my mind. I don't even know where to start or how to start, and honestly, that's why I decided to sip a little. Ooh. I had that Casamigos bottle. This is the only Casamigos I drink. This one. I had it for a while because I'm not really someone that drinks liquor all the time. I had it probably for like a month, just sitting in the kitchen. And I just opened it tonight. And this is the second little shot that I have, or if you consider it a shot. I am going to try to get through this. This is going to be a get ready with me. I hate when people ask you, like, where are you going? I'm getting ready with you. Why? Because I need to feel good, okay? And yesterday, I attended a memorial service for, I can feel me getting emotional now, for my stepfather. And yeah, so there was a death in the family. I lost my stepfather, who really was a father to me. Like, I guess that's why I wanted to get into conversation about this, because there's a lot of things that I haven't expressed publicly. But if you were in my life, you knew who my stepfather was, is. Oh, I forgot to put some primer on. What he meant to me, the important role he played in my life and my children's lives. I think that's a bit much. This thing has like always been like this since I opened it, but it's one of my favorite primers. Yeah. So yeah, I just want to talk about him and where I'm at, because and I will share the clip. I wasn't able to fully express at his memorial service everything I wanted to say, because obviously, you know, we're running on time constraints, and I was already late. They actually started late because of me, but like, who has a memorial service 9 o'clock in the morning? Only my mom. Like, you should have got the okay from me. But I just want to go in and say, like, a couple of years ago, Christmases ago, rather, because my biological father birthday is December 23rd. And I posted a video about him and how it feels to lose a parent, and I was very emotional. I was very emotional in that video. And when I lost my stepfather, all I could think of is about that video, like the things that I said in that video. And I have reasons, and maybe I'll get into that in this video. This may be a two-parter because I'm telling you, it's going to be long. It's going to be emotional. I am feeling the emotions. I'm feeling the emotions coming. So I'm trying my best. And honestly, I've been holding this off until I thought that I was good enough to capable enough to talk about it. I thought, I was in a place where I can talk about it and I'm not going to be overly emotional, and I'll have like my thoughts pretty much together and everything. But as I sense now, like there's a mirror behind my phone, so that's what I'm doing. But I feel a breakdown coming through, so emotions are pretty much all over the place right now. My stepfather, I gotta give you guys the history. We were one of those, or the typical, I say we, when I say we, I'm talking about my sister and I. My sister and I'll leave the link to the video when I was talking about my biological father. But he married my mother the same year. My stepfather married my mother the same year my mother and father got a divorce. But they've been separated for like years. And so pretty much since I was 5 years old, I'll be turning 34 this April. Pretty much since I was 5 years old, my stepfather has been a part of me and my sister's lives. So pretty much all our lives. My little sister, she was 3 years old when he came into our lives. And because it came into our lives at a time where our father was still alive, our father gave us the mentality that we don't have to listen to anybody that is not our mom or our dad. So anybody trying to tell us what to do, from a teacher to the people at church, my dad was not having it, and we were allowed to be defiant and everything because it's my dad said, you can't tell us what to do. You're not my dad. You're not my mom. So that pretty much was the rebellious streak that my sister and I had. More so me though, but we were both a problem. Like, we were rebellious. We were bad kids. You know what I mean? We was, because we were spoiled, and our dad was here, and like we couldn't do no wrong in his eyes, and we got away with everything for the most part. Like, he didn't want nobody trying to control us, because he's not there. He's all the way in New York. So if we tell something, oh, this lady popped us in church, he was having a fit. He wasn't trying to hear that. So once he gave us the okay at a very young age, we pretty much talked to people however we want to, treated people however we want to. And that was just that. So with that being said, it's no surprise that, we didn't get along with our stepfather for many, many, many years. And my father passed when I was 19 years old. And I would say I started to have way more respect for him when I started to mature around 18, because I was a new mom. I had my first child at 18, my son at 18. So that's when I started to gain respect for him. But, it still took some time to get to where we were today. And I'm sorry if you hear the dog barking in the background. Ooh, that's a whole nother story. But I'm sorry you hear all this noise in the background. They always acting up. But yeah, so, trying to speed it up. So anyways, we started to form a relationship when I became a mother, pretty much. And the years preceding it, so anyways, fast forward, throughout the years, my stepfather became someone that I genuinely respected. Spiritually, like, I consider him my pastor. He is or was a pastor. Oh my God, this dog. He was a pastor, and I'm so sorry about this dog, honestly. But okay, so anyways, he was just somebody that I remain in constant contact with. Whenever I need him, he was there, in any type of way, financially. There were times when I was younger, but still an adult, where I was like, I needed money for my phone. And like, oh, can I borrow the money for my phone? And he'll let me borrow the money. And, I would think I'm borrowing the money from him. And it's like, oh, the Lord told me to let you keep it, or the Lord told me to bless you with $25, And he always did stuff like that. And it didn't matter what time I called him, like me and my friends or friends of the past, we used to get real deep and talk about God. And, if I had a question, if I needed him to pray for my friend, if my friends was going through something and I wanted to know the answer, or we needed to know the answer or whatever, he always picked up the phone for me. He picked up the phone for me so much that it wasn't like him to not answer the phone. Like, he never not answered the phone for me. I'm getting choked up because the one time he didn't answer the phone for me is because he died. Like, that's the reality of the situation. Like, it's so crazy. I'm getting teary-eyed. Mini shot. Okay, so with that being said, I did that video about my father, and I was crying so hard because I was just like, who's gonna walk me down the aisle now? I want to be clear. The reason why I didn't consider him walking me down that aisle is not because I didn't look at him as a father. It was genuinely because I really wanted him to officiate my wedding. He was the person I wanted to officiate my wedding. If it wasn't for that, because that's how much I respect his position and him as a pastor and a spiritual leader. Like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, this is going to be hard. This is going to be hard. Oh, Jesus, I hope I can get through this. This is going to be hard. So anyways, that's the only reason why. Fast forward, here I am with 4 kids now. Like, my stepdad used to be very judgmental. We argued with him so many times. I can't even tell you. I fought him physically. He was a black belt, okay? I used to fight him with my bare hands. Like, I was crazy. my sister did worse, which I won't talk about, but you know, just to give y'all some background, like, we was just the roughest, hardest kids to raise, you know what I mean? And like, even still, he loved us, he forgave us, he loved us unconditionally. He didn't hold us as we grew into young women. He didn't hold our childhood mistakes, the mistakes that we made as children, against us up until the day that he died. And I'm crying because it just meant so much for me personally, because honestly, it's so hard for people to get an image of you out of their head when they're used to you being one type of way. And it doesn't matter how much you have proven your worth. Some people, a lot of people, especially for me and especially in my family, so many people refuse to see the growth in me because they were still chained to the old me, that they didn't allow me to grow. There wasn't no room for growth in their head, but that wasn't him. He seen the change and recognized the change, and he always pointed it out, always acknowledged it, and it meant so much to me. He even told me many times, on many occasions, that when he writes his book, I am going to have, or he was going to dedicate at least 1 to 2 chapters just for me. And unfortunately, he will never be able to write that book because he's no longer here. But just to know that he recognized the growth in me so much, that's what he felt. And he said it so many times. He said it to me, he texted to me, he said it so many times. And honestly, it just filled my heart up with so much joy, because somebody seen me for me. Somebody that I used to be so nasty to, evil, like a bad little kid, a bad rebel, gave him a hard time. He forgave me, and he didn't hold that against me. You know, he allowed me to grow and mature into the woman that I am today. You know, I fight with a lot of people today because they still hold me to that old person. I was able to be myself, you know? And he was able to see me for who I am today, and not the 14-year-old, 15-year-old rebellious little girl. And that meant so much to me, like so much. So anyways, what I didn't realize is that, you know, he meant so much more. I'm sorry, I didn't realize he meant so much more than I felt he did. And I already felt he meant so much. I always told him, we called him Bandsmith. When I was younger, he was an evangelist. And he was an evangelist, and like I said, we met him when we were 3 and 5, so we couldn't pronounce the word evangelist at 3 and 5, as you can imagine. So we used to call him Banna Smith instead of Evangelist Smith. Banna Smith. And it went from Banna Smith until, like, now that I'm grown, we started calling him, at some point it transitioned from Banna Smith to Band Smith. So and that was like that's what we call him. So that's like calling him dad, you know, like that was our way of calling him dad. That was his own special name that, you know, I was the one to come up with that, because I couldn't, you know, I was the one that could really talk, but I couldn't pronounce evangelist, you know, to the point where everybody was calling him that. Okay. And I didn't realize, even up until the day that he passed, that, like, when he passed, It hurt so bad. It hit me so bad because honestly, I was at outs with my mother, and he was the only person I was communicating with. You know, like he was our middleman, because it was just so, we just have that mother-daughter relationship that there's a lot of friction. And you know, I want to honor my mom. I don't want to disrespect her. I want my days to be long. So in my head, and I told him this is one of the last like real long conversations we had the week of right before Christmas. I told him, Ben Smith, the only way I can honor my mom is by staying away from her, because you know, she triggers and provokes me and to a point where I get disrespectful, and I don't want to be disrespectful, you know. So it's just best that we keep our distance. It's best that, you know, we just don't deal with each other unless we really, really have to. So I'd rather go through you, you know, that type of thing. And he was just like, y'all need to stop and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, Smith, you don't see, like, she provokes me. I disrespect her. I can't honor her, like, you know. So anyways, you know, he was the middleman between my mother and I, and he always, I mentioned this in one of my mommy me time videos. I specifically said, you know, gave a shout out to my stepfather, you know, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to have mommy me time, to be honest, you know, like with no issues, you know, like he's the one that doesn't mind taking my kids. Like he will call me and tell me like, hey, do you need a break? It's been a while since you been kid free. I don't mind watching the kids. He adored my kids. He loved my kids. Those are his grandchildren. He loved them, adored them, thirsted for time with them. And that meant a lot to me, especially, you know, coming from a grandparent, because my mom is not that way. She can care less. She don't, I'm not saying that she don't love my kids, but she don't care about having that quality time with them and stuff that in the manner that he did. So I really appreciate that. And then at the same hand, you know, gave me free time, and I'm checking with him every 5 seconds, like, hey, you know, just to let you know, I'm at this place. He's like, you don't have to do that. I'm fine. The kid's fine. Come back whenever you can, you know, like whenever you want to. So that meant so much to me, because out of everybody, he was the only one that considered me, you know, that considered like, I love spending time with the kids, and she needs her time, you know, and it worked out for the both of us. So the day I spoke to him all the time. So pretty much weekly, I would speak to him like 1 to 2 times at the minimum a week. And I had just spoken with him the 2 days before he passed, and he was supposed to watch the kids the day that he died. And that morning, my mom, she texted me like, he wasn't feeling well last night. I don't think he'll be able to watch the kids, you know, at the time that we arranged, bring him a little later. So because I didn't want to argue with him, like I'm calling his phone, he didn't answer. And I'm like, thought that was weird, because normally he answers when I call. And it wasn't too early in the day. Kept calling, text them multiple times. I was just like, something ain't right. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, that's weird. So, next thing I know, my brother calls me, my oldest brother, and he's like, hey, sis, you need to go with mommy right now. You need to meet mommy at Ben Smith's house. Ben Smith passed, like, just like that. And I'm like, what? Like, what? Like, what? He was like, yeah, man. I'm like, that's my dad. Like, you know, that's my dad. That's my dad. That's my dad. What I realized in that moment is that my dad died when I was 19. This man known me since I was 5. I'm about to be 34. He watched me grow into a young woman. He watched me go through the hardships in my life. that my dad never got to see. He watched me grow to what he calls a remarkable woman. That's what he called me. He called me a remarkable woman. And I realized, and I am not trying to take anything away from my biological father, but the facts are the facts. In that moment, I realized that he was my dad. He was my dad. And I never could have imagined my life without him. And I'm sorry I'm giving you guys the ugly cry, but this is like, I thought I was ready for this conversation. I thought I was ready for this tea, but I'm not. Like, it still makes me emotional because I'm talking about it. But I could never imagine my life without him. Now I have to. It's just like I lost my second dad, my bonus dad. You don't really realize, like, how important a step parent is. And he wasn't no regular step parent. Like, he wasn't, like, I hated him as a teenager. We went through so many problems. He went through so many problems in his marriage because of me. You know what I mean? But that man was loyal. Okay? He was loyal. He was loyal to me and my siblings. He was loyal to my mother. And my mother, like, shunned him a lot. You know what I mean? We shunned him a lot. He remained loyal. Once I understood within the last few years that he was a lonely man, and, you know, it was important to me to gain a good relationship with him, to the point where now my kids adore him. He had his own personal relationship with my daughter, my oldest daughter, my oldest son. Like, he had a thing where he would always buy my oldest son his favorite candy, give him $20. With my oldest daughter, they will always have movie night, you know, with the babies. He would just come and spend time with them. My youngest daughter would give him such a hard time. He would tell my daughter, don't say nothing to your mom because I don't want her to get in trouble. I found that out after he passed, you know. He was just an amazing man, honestly. And honestly, I don't know why he passed. I don't know why. Know why. It was so unforeseen. I didn't see it coming. I did not see it coming at all. As far as I know, he had rheumatoid arthritis, and he had it bad. It was very, very painful. So when he would come and watch my kids, he had to take painkillers just to get through the day. But you better not dare stop him. You better not dare hold him back from doing what he wants to do for you. You know what I mean? Because of his condition. And that's what I love about him. Like, even through the pain, he showed up for me and my kids. He showed up for my mother. And they lived in 2 separate houses, still married. You know what I mean? He showed up for his son, you know, his only blood son. He showed up for my brother, like my oldest brother. Like, he showed up for everybody. Not to mention that he was an amazing minister, an amazing pastor. You know what I mean? And I'll leave information to his website and his YouTube. But he was on point, man, to the point I never seen nobody love God the way he do. And that's just real. And that's why I didn't mind tithing to his ministry. That's why I didn't mind calling him, because I believed in his ministry, which was Highways and Hedges. He had a tent ministry that he had for like 18 or so years, where every year he would set up a tent around Trenton, New Jersey, just to preach the gospel, you know, to win souls to Christ. People in the alleyways, the drug addicts, the drug dealers, he would sit on the corner and preach the gospel and have service every night, have a crusade in the hood. You know what I mean? Like, that was a man after God's heart. And I seen it, I recognize it, and I honor it. And I just thank God so much for having somebody like him in my life. You know what I mean? He was the one that told me that No, your kids need a stepfather. You know what I mean? Because I was just like, oh, I don't need a man to take care of my kids. I talked about that in one of my videos last year. You know, I said that, and he was the one like, no, you do. You know what I mean? He was the one that taught me, like, you need a man that will love your kids as much as if it was their own, that will take care of your kids. And I totally see it now, like the way he loved my mom's children. She had 3 kids when he met her, and he chased her for years. Okay, he chased her for years until my mom was okay, like, you know what I mean? And 3 children, and 2 of them gave him the, yo, we was bad, yo. We did some messed up, foul stuff to him. You know what? He still loved us. He still embraced us. And he was the only one that really forgave us, you know what I mean, for being those bad little kids. And I know I was supposed to be doing my makeup and stuff, but that's why I don't have lashes on, man. I cried my lashes off the day he passed. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Let me take this shot. Woo. And by the way, that star that's sitting over there came from him. I got stuff all throughout the house that came from his apartment. But the day that he passed, I told you about the call. I was hysterical, you guys. Like, it just, honestly, I'm so heartbroken. I've never felt that kind of pain, yo. Like, not even with my own dad. And if I did, it was just so long ago. Like, my dad would be dead 14 years. He died tomorrow, February 3rd. It is like so back to back, because the last time we seen my stepdad was on Christmas. The last time we seen my dad was on Thanksgiving. So like the end of the year and this January, February thing, like, it's just gonna be hard. Like, I thought it was hard before, but I lost 2 dads. Oh my God. But moving forward, when we got to his place, you know, like I said, we was hysterical. My little sister and I, we live right across the hall from each other. So when my brother was on the phone telling me that, I just like was freaking out. I ran, I'm banging on her door, banging. And she was like, what? I'm like, it's Ben Smith. And she's like, no. It was just like a real, like the worst pain. Like, I just can't. It is the worst pain. I just talked to him yesterday. He was supposed to have my kids today. Like, oh God. So he died in his sleep. So what happened was, my mom, he wasn't obviously picking up for her. And like I said, she did text me that he wasn't feeling well. Apparently, when they last spoke the evening before, he was complaining about having chest pains. He was complaining about it for that week or so. And his chest pains was so bad that, like, he goes to service every Friday night. And I know this because I would call him. I just called him the Friday before, and he was in service. He wasn't picking up. That was the first time he didn't pick up. And I like called him right back because I'm like, he'll never not answer my phone call. So he answered the second time, but it was to let me hear, like, there was service going on in the background. They was hooting and hollering, praise God. I was like, oh, he's in church. But yeah, so I guess because he wasn't feeling good and he wasn't picking up the next day, my mom and my little brother, which is his biological son, went over to his place. She couldn't get in, so she called the police. And the police was able to get in, and that's when they found him in his bed, asleep. So my oldest brother was on the phone with my mother when she went, when she was there and she found him, and he said, like, Mommy lost it. I can't even imagine what that feels like or sounds like, because I've never seen my mom. My mom is one of those people that don't really show emotion. The only time you see her cry is when she's praising God. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only time you see her cry. So haven't seen her, in show emotion like that. But from what I heard, it was like very tragic. And that's why my brother called me and said, you need to be over there right now. Like, Gary, my little brother, apparently, like, he was going off and he ended up leaving because it was just too much. So I'm assuming he went to get his wife. So me, I have 4 kids, so I was doing my best to get there as fast as I can, because like I said, they were supposed to meet. I was supposed to bring them that morning, but I kept calling him, and I just wasn't getting through. So I'm just like, and when I got the call from my brother, it just like, everything made sense. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, this is crazy. So I get there, there's a cop there, and he's in his bed. Like, he's just asleep peacefully in his bed. That's it, and that's all. And what I cherished from that moment, I took pictures. I took 3 photos of him asleep in his bed, because I took one photo. My father passed in the hospital. My biological father, he passed in the hospital, and the one photo I had, it was just too much, and I deleted it, and I regret it so much. Same as my sister. Like, we just regret deleting that photo. These photos I will never delete. But my oldest son, he was kind of like weirded out. Like, he didn't want to see him in his room, in his bed. And I'm like, trust me, son, like, you are going to regret not having this moment with him. And it really was honestly such a beautiful moment that we was able to have privately, you know what I mean? Because in his will, he wanted to be cremated. Those are his wishes. So that was the last time we seen him. So not for nothing, but we spent like 3-4 hours with him before the funeral home arrived to take his body away. And it was still pretty surreal. There's a lot of moments that I don't even care to talk about. But I really appreciate the fact that all my kids, because honestly, I was trying to drop my kids off to their father. I asked my daughter, because my daughter broke down. Like, that's her pop. They had their movie nights. Like, she broke down, and I asked her, like, do you want to come with us to his house? Or she was like, I don't want to see him like that. So I did get in touch with their father, but their father had other plans that day. But, he was busy, so he wasn't able to take them. And I'm glad now that, I didn't drop them off with him, because those moments that we had with my dad, and I'm talking about dad number 2, we was all there as a family. My 2 nieces wasn't there, but that's just because my sister-in-law, she does hers differently. But I'm that type of mom that, like, look, this is what's happening. Like, we going through this together. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I'm gonna be upfront with you about everything. Everybody don't agree with my method, but that's just how I am. And honestly, I'm glad that I am that way, because you got to teach your kids some things, and it was very unfortunate. I just, like, when it happened, I just apologized. I just kept saying sorry to my daughter. Like, I'm so sorry to my daughter and my son, the oldest ones. I'm like, I'm so sorry y'all had to go through this at such a young age. Like, y'all shouldn't have to feel this type of pain at such a young age. Like I was young, but I was 19 when I lost my father, But, they were able to give him a hug and a kiss and, just hold his hand and rub his feet, And it was just like, these are our last moments with them. And I cherish it so much. Honestly, I wish I could have had these last moments with my own biological father like that. But I wasn't, but I was able to do it with dad number 2. And man, this man, I really just wanted to do this video to just honor him and, you know, just tell you guys what I've been going through lately. So he passed on January 15th, approximately around 8 to 8:30 in the morning, maybe even a little before then. He was still warm when we came. Felt normal to me. Like, I was just like, oh my God, this is really a dead body in front of me, because this is like the second time I had to go through this. And they were both my dads, you know, and I just kept asking God, why? I know we're not supposed to question God, but it made me feel better to ask, you know. But I will never know. But I just ask that y'all keep our family in prayer. My brother especially, because I'm sorry he had to go through this at a young age. My sister and I'm sorry that we had to go through this again, you know, still at a young age. Like, my sister is about to get married. Like, thankfully he gave his blessing, you know, to my sister's fiance. And this is the man that I've been talking about that my sister's been dating. I mentioned him a few times throughout the year or years or whatever, the last couple of years. But, you know, like, right before her wedding, and it's like, dang, this had to happen. Like, why couldn't it be, like, after, you know? But, excuse me, like, it's not our timing. It's God's timing, and it's whatever God say. You know, he's a sovereign God. And that was the thing, because my mom was somewhat in denial when it happened. And, you know, my sister was just like, pray, because she was on the phone with my mom before we were able to get to the house that morning. And I'm like, what, is he okay? Are they like trying to bring him back? And she was like, yeah, just pray. And I'm like, what I prayed was, you know, like, basically my mom was saying like, oh, you know, God just needed to have a conversation with him, you know. But I'm like, honey, if that was the case, Dan Smith ain't coming back here. He is exactly where he want to be. For sure, that man is with God. Once again, I'm just asking you guys to please keep our family in prayer, especially my little brother. This is deep, you know. It's deep for him, but he's strong. He's very strong. Like, I was the one. He's asking me like, "You okay?" He's checking on me and everything. It's like, it's your biological dad, but you know, like, he's handling it very well. But you know, I know he's gonna have those moments, and that's what I told him. Like, these are the feelings you're gonna feel for the rest of your life. You're gonna, especially when it's time for celebration, when there's sadness, that's gonna be the first person you think about. That's gonna be the first person you wish you could call, and they're not here. You know, I'm just gonna keep it real with you. That's just how it's gonna go. And yo, it's deep. Like, it's deep. So I also said all that to say this. Like, I really didn't know the impact of a step parent, a bonus mom or a bonus dad. I had no idea the impact, especially when they are introduced into your children's lives at such a young age. But from experience, and now, you know, have lost my bonus dad, I understand how important it is to have the perfect significant other for your child. You know what I mean? So if you are a bonus mom or a bonus dad, consider this. You know what I mean? Like, the impact that you leave on your children's lives are big. You want that impact to be profound. He left such an amazing impact that I hope I have a husband like him who loves my children the way he has loved my sister and my brother and I. You know what I mean? Not to mention, like, I have the perfect little brother. He had every part to do with that. That was his best friend, his right hand. You know what I mean? he raised that young man so well that I am proud of my little brother. You know what I mean? So the impact that a bonus mom or dad have, you have no idea. And for us children that are hard-headed and, you know what I mean, embrace y'all bonus mom and dads to the fullest, especially as you're older. You hated them when you were young, you wanted to be rebellious, but embrace them now that while you still have them. Like, don't take them for granted. You know, spend the extra time with them and love them and let them know that you love and appreciate them, because it matters. It matters so much. And I just thank God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, so much for blessing my family and I with him. Thank you. All right, I'm going to finish this face.